Hi everybody, so here you are. You've done the orientation module, I hope, and now you're ready to begin the course. Philosophy of religion. What exactly is that? So in this lecture video, we'll look at that question. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So what is a philosophy of religion class about? Well, let's take a look at the title, Philosophy of Religion. We see the word philosophy in there, so we're doing philosophy stuff. What does that mean? Take a look at the word philosophy. It's made of two parts, right? The first part, the philo part, is a Greek term that refers to love. Now, the thing about ancient Greek language is that they realized there are several different types of love. I mean, in the English language, when we say, I love pizza, we probably don't mean the same thing as when we say, I love my parents, right? The way that word love doesn't really have the same meaning. Or when we say, I love going to work, that probably isn't the same thing that we mean when we say, I love my cousin. Or when you say, I love my partner, we probably don't mean the same thing as when you say, I love my dog. Okay, maybe that one, there's some similarity depending on your relationship to your partner or to your dog. But hopefully you realized that while the English word love has multiple meanings, the Greeks realized that they all deserve their own term. So philo is the love you have for your friends. Think about that sort of love. I mean, what does it mean to love your friends? It means you want to be closer to them, you want to spend time with them, right? You want to hang out with them. So in philosophy, we're trying to hang out with something. We're trying to get closer to something. We're trying to spend more time with something. And that something is the second part of the term. The Sophie part refers to Sophia, and that refers to wisdom or knowledge. So in a very broad sense, the word philosophy refers to trying to get closer to wisdom, wanting to spend more time with wisdom, like wisdom was a good friend. Notice that philosophy is something you do. It's not just something you feel, right? Philosophy is trying to do something, getting closer, spending time with wisdom. Philosophy of religion, what is that class about? What is this class about? Well, it's trying to get closer to wisdom of religion. But then we have to define what religion is, right? And that's not so easy. I bet you could point out and name different religions, but what would be your definition of one? Maybe one comes to your mind, but what we'll notice between now and our next class together is there's lots of ways of trying to define what a religion is, which makes the discussion of religion and the philosophizing of religion not necessarily clear cut. What we can say right now is that this word stems from the Latin word religio, which refers to binding or tying together. Think about the word ligament, right? Ligaments are those things that tie our bodies together. Religio is related to that term. So what are we tying together? What are we binding together? That's something I want you to think about for next time. So if we can't really define religion right now, can I even tell you what we do in a philosophy of religion class? Can I even explain to you what a philosophy of religion class is about? Kinda. I mean, it's really about this. What is this? You had to respond to this for your Flipgrid assignment, right? Some of you said this is toast. This is bread. When I see this, this means nourishment. Maybe you said this means grain or wheat. Maybe some of you said this means evil carbs. I'm on the keto diet. I can't have any of this stuff. One person on YouTube found this so meaningful that they recorded a video of it. I mean, why would they record a video of this? What is it that they see here? What does this mean to them? For some of you, maybe you don't see anything. You don't have any idea why this person decided to record a video of their toast. Others of you might go, oh my goodness, I see Jesus here. And you wouldn't be alone. A lot of people see this and say they see Jesus. And as it turns out, you can find Jesus everywhere. He happens to have been found on pans. Can you see Jesus there? If not so much there, how about here? And how about even here? Can you see Jesus in this sock? So socks and pans aren't the only places that Jesus has been spotted in. Jesus has been spotted on the back of crabs, apparently. Okay, so this sort of investigation leads to some interesting questions, I think, right? The question that we just asked is, what do you believe you see here, which is interesting. But then another question to ask is, wait a minute, how could you even prove or disprove what you believe you see? If you think you see Jesus there, is that something that we can prove or disprove? If we can't, is believing on faith good enough? And if there's no way to prove what you believe you are seeing and experiencing, can't you just believe on faith? Or is that problematic? Another question that this brings up is maybe, as we saw in the video, maybe there's always more than one correct way of experiencing and interpreting reality. If you've taken a basic psychology class, you've been exposed to the psychology of perception. And you know that whatever you experience is always filtered by your mind, that what you experience is the result of not just what's in front of you, but what you bring to the table and impose upon what's in front of you. So here, maybe many of you can see the image of a face. So maybe you see an eye and a bridge of a nose here, and maybe you see lips. So maybe some of you see a face. Can you see the person playing the saxophone here? Take a second. So rather than the dark parts of the image being the shadow of a woman's face, maybe the dark parts are in the foreground. They're what's in front of a white screen, and what we really see is a silhouette of a person playing some sort of instrument, right? Where here's the bottom of their horn, right? And here's the mouthpiece going into their mouth. Here's their feet. Maybe this is their pants as they're standing up. Maybe they have a big tall hat. More famously, there was the image of the silhouette of the two faces and the vase. If you want to see the black part of the image in the foreground, right, then you have to imagine that there's a black image in front of a white screen. And that black image might be one that looks like a vase, right, in front of a white background. You can reverse that, and you can think of the black as the background. So if the black is the background, the foreground is the white outlines of two faces staring at each other. And you could switch back and forth possibly between those two images anytime you want. As psychology tells us, we impose meaning upon our experience of reality. We never experience something as it is. We always experience it through the lens of our own minds. More famously, maybe you've seen this image of the duck and the rabbit. Right? In some sense, they're both here. If you don't see the rabbit, here is the mouth of the rabbit, its eyes looking towards your right, with its ears pointed behind it. If you don't see the duck, this towards the left is the mouth, right, the beak of the duck. Here's the eye looking towards the left, and you could switch back and forth. In some sense, both those images are there, depending on how you want to look at it. Well, does that mean when somebody sees Jesus in their toast, Jesus is both here and not here at the same time? Does that even make any sense? Another interesting question then is, does it even matter what you perceive? Does it even matter what you believe? Or, even if we know a belief to be false, is it ever okay to have a false belief? If there is a correct way to experience the world, if there is a truth out there, about what that is in the image, is it okay to ever be wrong? Is it okay to ever hold a belief that is for sure not true? Here's a example of a piece of bread, but it's more than a piece of bread, right? For you astute observers, maybe you can realize that it's a sandwich that has a bite taken out of one of its corners. Okay, well, that's one way of interpreting this. The person that made the sandwich, the owner, the person that took the bite, realized that what they had made was actually a miracle, or at least what they see with the sandwich was actually a miracle. Do you have any idea what they were talking about? Do you have any idea what they saw with this sandwich? Apparently, what the owner saw was an image of the Virgin Mary. And if you're unfamiliar with who the Virgin Mary is, the Virgin Mary is the mother of Jesus, and for Christians, that means the mother of God. In this sandwich, the owner saw the mother of God. Here is the background story. The owner, Mrs. Duzier, she actually said that she kept this sandwich for quite a long time without it ever getting mold. Not just a few days, not just a few weeks. She claimed she had kept it for over 10 years without it ever having gotten mold. She says that she had taken it frequently to casinos, and when she took it, she miraculously experienced good fortune, good luck at the casinos. And eventually, the casino that she frequented bought the sandwich from her for $28,000. Can we then say that Mrs. Dusier's faith was rewarded? That regardless of whether or not there's actually an image of the Virgin Mary on her sandwich, can we say that her faith rewarded her? And that even if she's wrong, it's okay. It reminds me of this cartoon, which I really love. Two cavemen are in the desert, and one starts to bow down to this cactus, and his buddy behind him says, "It's just a cactus, Fred. It's not an establishment of religion." And we could see why he would say that. It's just a cactus. But what does that even mean? It's just a cactus. I mean, why isn't it a symbol of a religion? Why isn't it something that can give that first caveman inspiration, or that points to something beyond himself? So, all of these questions we just looked at, right? This is kind of what we do in philosophy classes. We ask questions, stemming from a tradition that goes back to the ancient Greek philosophers, all the way back to Socrates, who's often thought of as, the father of Western philosophy. We partake in asking questions as a means of getting to wisdom. Socrates died because he wouldn't stop asking questions. He was put on trial and convicted of corrupting the youth, because when you ask too many questions, people in power get freaked out. Right? People that have authority don't want you asking questions. You could possibly be corrupting the citizens. So to this day, when you take a philosophy class, you see what we do is ask lots of questions. I'm hoping, though, you realize that the questions we asked just now aren't just about Jesus and toast, right? I mean, obviously, this is all about religion. You can ask this question about all religious faiths, because all religions seem to describe seeing the world slightly differently. And some of them have beliefs or doctrine that are often tough to prove or disprove, right? How do you disprove that there is an invisible force moving all things called the Tao? How do you disprove that we die and then are reincarnated into a new life, like we see espoused in Hinduism? How can we disprove that Jesus rose from the dead if you weren't there to witness it? Can you just believe on faith with regards to all of these things? And a lot of religious people do. And if we have all of these people, all these large groups of people that all have this different description of reality and what reality is like, Might that point to the fact that there's more than one way to experience reality? To what extent does somebody's perception of it influence the quality of their life? Can you see in the news how the way somebody believes what they believe in can have dramatic effects on the quality of not just their own life, but how they interact with other people? Is it ever okay to have a false belief? Lots of these religions have beliefs that we go, there's no way that's true. Should you do anything about it? I mean, if you go, no, there's no way that could be true, do you have a responsibility to point them in the quote unquote right direction? So, in general, what's the philosophy of religions class? It's a class that does that sort of thing, what we just did. Ask questions about religions. We are not a history of religions class, right? We don't just learn about things that happen in religion and how religions evolved and the history of them. We don't do that. We're not a comparative religions class, though some of you I know are here because you were in my comparative religions class. In a comparative religious class, we try to understand a religion from the inside, right? We try to get a sense for what people within the religion believe and how they experience life. That's not what we do in this class. In this class, we ask questions. We ask questions about religions. We ask questions about religious beliefs. We ask questions about the validity of them. Lots of different questions. In fact, these are the specific questions we'll be asking in our class. Our class can be thought of as being broken up into two halves, right? There's the half before the midterm and a half after the midterm. Before the midterm, we'll ask questions about religion and belief, because in the Western tradition of doing philosophy, a lot of it has to do with questioning beliefs. So we'll look at the question of, does God exist? If God does exist, how could God allow evil? How could God allow suffering, especially since God is thought of as being all good? We'll ask, should we ever believe on faith? And maybe we'll even ask the question, what does it even mean to have faith in the first place? We'll ask the question of, can beliefs be justified just on somebody's subjective personal experience? Even though you don't experience it that way, can I justify my knowledge? Can I justify what I know simply because I happen to experience it that way? So, second half of the class, comprised of two different parts. The first part is religion and life. We'll look at the question of, is there life after death? Is religion something that comes from the divine, from the heavens, from God, or is that something that comes from human life? Is religion something that we made up? We'll also look at the question of, how has religion impacted social political life? What's the relationship between religion and justice? The third part is religion and meaning. We'll tackle the big question of, what is the meaning of life? And we'll see that that's going to be related to this question of religious language. So we'll look at whether or not religious language is meaningful, or is it just gibberish? And lastly, we'll take a look at the meaning of religion. Not what religion means, not what the definition of religion is. We'll look at that next class. But the meaning of religion. The question that I'd like you to think about between now and the next lecture is, why even do this? I mean, we have all these cool questions, right? But why ask them? Like, why participate in a philosophy of religions class? Why even study it? Right? We'll take a look at that, and we'll take a look at the definition of religion, or definitions of religion, next time.